Cutting edge guests, awesome, uncensored, jaw-dropping information, plus funny memes, good deeds, and loads of laughter. Kind of have it all. Ladies and gentlemen, if your soul's awake, then welcome, because you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Golden Age live stream, you divine lions and lionesses. He is back here, Major General Paul E. Vallely, U.S. Army, retired, WestPoint graduate, 1961, interim president of the MacArthur Society at West Point, co-drafter of America First, and one of the 200 flag officers standing by and recruited President Trump to run for 2016. We have a lot to discuss, so tune in and let's go.
My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words to you. We will make America great again.
Well, it is Friday, November 7th. I wish I could take credit for that last part of the video, but let me tell you, folks, that was President Trump in the White House right there with that. And joining us here is Major General Paul E. Vallely, national treasure. Sir, it's an honor to have you back on the show, and good afternoon to you.
Thank you, Brad. It's always a pleasure. You have a great show. Everybody needs to watch it every week or every month or every week of the month.
Sounds good. Yeah, exactly, sir. And it's an honor for your support and everything that you do. And my golly, you know, as I mentioned to people before and the multiple times on the show, you just continue to blow me away. Just in the pre-show we're chatting, you're redoing a book that's coming out, new book cover, Reality Prism. Everybody, I'll show you the link here in a moment. It's in the description as always, so just look in the description. And sir, you're still interim president of the MacArthur Society at West Point. And my goodness, you know, you're working full time in your headquarters in what was supposed to be your retirement years on the golf course. So thank you very much for standing up.
Well, Brad, my wife's trying to get me to retire at 85. I'll be 86 in a couple of weeks.
That's right.
And she keeps asking, when are you going to retire? You don't need to do all this stuff anymore. I said, what can I do? I can't sit around and watch television all day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I shared in the promo, sir, your famous picture from the Beast Barracks. I think that's a great place to start to just kind of lay out what we're going to be covering today from the history that you've had being trained by some of the greatest men who were officers and generals who helped win World War II in Europe. So describe this picture that you had sent to us here about 2 months ago.
Well, this was July of 1957. It's our plebe, or what they'd call freshman year at West Point.
Mm-hmm.
And every day at the end of the day, you have a shower. And that's when they harass you the most. You only get 50 or 60 seconds, 1 minute in the showers, and you have to get out. And that's when the total harassment occurs by the upperclassmen there at what they call, Beast Barracks. So, and then they stuck a cigar in my mouth after. I can't tell whether that's before or after the shower. Looks like we're pretty dirty, so it's probably before the shower. Those were all my classmates who were in my Beast Barracks company.
That's awesome. And thank you for your service, sir. Really, really appreciate that. As everybody saw in the thumbnail and the title of the show, you know, we're in a renaissance around the world. The Trump effect, the MAGA effect is felt around the world 100%. And it's not even been a full year since Trump has been president as 47. And the America First agenda is also helping, in my opinion, driving world peace, restoring the law. We'll talk about this, to filibuster elections and Obama's treason. So, you know, sir, the floor is yours. Where do you feel is most pertinent issues for our audience? Majority are in America, but also we have Australia tuning in and South Africa that you feel of the day.
Well, our primary threat in America, of course, is the Communist Democratic Party and these left-wing acolytes, as I'll call them. And you look at the breakdown and trying to destroy capitalism, bringing in socialism and communism. And if they would study their history, which they don't, they'd understand communism, socialism has never worked. It's an up society. You've got to grow the people here and develop and educate it from here, and not a top-down government which dictates where you go to school, what the students learn, the economy, and affects all parts of a society. Again, the military, the economy, schools, medicine. If you go across the whole board of how a government runs or should run for the benefit of the people, and these left-wing ideologues are trying to destroy all that. That's what I don't understand. I know during Vietnam, really back in the late 60s, when I came back from Vietnam the second time, I was assigned to 6th Army headquarters at Presidio of San Francisco. Well, that was the same year when the anti-Vietnam riots occurred, and the Students for Democratic Society of University of California, Berkeley stood up. And that was the genesis of a lot of these left-wing professors that were educated at that time as students, rebellious, I guess I should say, to America at that time. And if you look how these left-wingers educated at that time came through these schools, the Ivy League schools, the California schools, and so on, they became later the professors, and that's what we see at the schools today. And then we see immigration, illegal immigration primarily coming in, which they don't like to call it. They only call it immigration. They never put the illegal in front of it, which means you get into a country, you need a passport, you need to come illegally. But they don't like to emphasize that illegal part at all. You know, they let that word out all the time in all their interviews, and that we don't like immigrants, which is not true. We like legal immigrants. So that disease, that cancer that has entered our society is ripping us apart. And of course, they use Trump as the target on all of this. It's Trump's fault for this. It's Trump's fault for the shutdown of the government that we're experiencing now in the United States. So that cancer's got to be destroyed. And President Trump, in my opinion, is the only leader in the United States that can put together the right team to destroy that cancer across the board. And so far, the Supreme Court has been backing the president for the most part. We hope that they'll back him on the new tariff. Court proceedings are going on right now. That could occur today. I don't know. So we got a battle on our hands, but the external threats are still smuggling into the country, though we've closed the border completely. It's almost zero illegals coming in now. But somehow or another, they're still trying to send these nasty drugs like fentanyl and cocaine from Venezuela, Colombia, and in Mexico. But I think what I'd like to emphasize, Brad, if you don't mind, what Trump's ultimate strategy is to go back to the Monroe Doctrine again, which basically solidifies in principle the Western Hemisphere. Now, if you look at the Western Hemisphere today, we didn't look at it at the time the Monroe Doctrine was originated, but now all the way to the Arctic, Greenland, Canada, United States, Central America, South America, all the way to the end of Argentina, down to the Antarctic. And so Trump now is trying to solidify and protect the Western Hemisphere from communism and the effects of China into those areas. And China is big time, of course, into Central and South America, as you know. And the Chinese shipping company is the one that took over the Panama Canal. Of course, Jimmy Carter sold us out on that deal, which was a bad decision. So we call it now the Donroe
Doctrine.
Donroe Doctrine rather than Monroe. But everybody should study the Monroe Doctrine. It all makes sense. But we're trying to protect our neighbors, our economies, destroyed drugs, the manufacturing of drugs, the transportation of drugs. So that's the external battle right now that we're facing. And one of the things I want to note on that, you hear a lot of commentators on television. Well, how do you know they're druggies? They're in these boats. They don't understand how you conduct military targeting operations.
Yeah.
All right. Let me explain that just real quickly, if I could. We use today very sophisticated methods and systems to gather intelligence. We have space, we have the satellites, we have drones, we have reconnaissance aircraft, we have cyber capability to intercept communications. And so what's happening now, for example, in Venezuela, we're looking at those targets, where the manufacturing factories are, say in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Okay, look down, see down, find out where they are. Now you can track the vehicles leaving those manufacturing facilities to a port on the Caribbean.
Yep.
You can see those drugs being loaded by individuals into those fast boats. Then they can see those boats leaving the port out into the Caribbean, and then they target them. And so they can say, well, we don't have the names of those. How can we kill those people? We don't have their names. Well, we don't care what the hell their name is. Hugo or whatever, Francisco, we don't care. We care that they're individuals operating in an environment to bring opium, I guess. I don't know whether they're using opium.
Fentanyl and coke and meth to the shores. Yeah.
All that crap into the ports where they can get in the United States. And then they're delivering a lot up through Canada, as I understand, and that's coming back down.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what the president's doing. He's protecting America, young Americans. We've lost more through fentanyl than we lost in World War II, for example. So that's sort of where I see the activity right now. And Trump, of course, Trump has the Hungarian prime minister in Washington today, and they've had a great meeting. But, you know, the ability to go out and negotiate. Most politicians don't know how to negotiate. They like to argue, you know, debate. But to actually make a deal, you have to have that mindset. You give and take on a deal. Whether you're doing a real estate deal or acquiring a company or whatever. And that's what it's about. You give and take and you come to some resolution. And that's what Trump does. We never have seen a president that can do that like he does.
Right.
None, ever. As great as Ronald Reagan was. Fantastic communicator, great president. But he didn't come out of a negotiated type of business. I mean, to conduct real estate business, for example, in New York City, when you're looking at acquisitions, you're looking at construction, all the labor unions, all of the government regulations you got to get through to put a building up. And that's what Trump's a master at. And he's taken that now to the White House, and that's how he's negotiating the tariffs. It's looking at it from a business point of view. What's good for America? And we're tired of getting robbed, as we have been on tariffs throughout the world for quite a long time. And he's finally taken action, and it's working.
Yeah, robbed, and the brain drain, and the decimation of the military power, and then obviously the Marxist, Lexist, Leninist, I guess. Excuse me, Lexist.
All that stuff.
All that stuff. Yeah, turning it back, and I have to throw this one in there. 51 for freedom in Alberta. So really hope that's going to come across as well. So then we'll be neighbors, myself in Alberta and you in Montana, General. Yeah,
I can't believe these globalists that still exist in the Canadian government.
Yeah.
They've allowed all of that Chinese to go and buy thousands and thousands of acreage in Canada. Yep. I mean, I live close to Alberta, but I just feel bad for the Canadians. And like one Canadian told me, and I've been working with Canadians for about 4 or 5 years now, but one individual told me Canada doesn't have any really national patriotic organizations.
Right.
Like we have. Stand Up America Foundation, for example, U.S. Foundation. and they've taken the weapons away. The people have allowed the government to take the weapons away. The same thing in Australia. What are they thinking? How are you going to protect yourself on your farm? How are you going to protect yourself against the cartels, people that are armed? They're coming in trying to destroy your country.
The cartels came in last night at Universal Ostrich Farms. They shot the 300 ostriches in the.
Did they really?
Quiet night. They massacred them all. Yeah, about 2 hours.
We wrote an article on that, by the way, as you may remember.
We did. Yep. Because I was on the ground there.
But people have to take charge of their lives. I mean, Calgary would be a great part of Montana.
You know? No problem with that.
Yeah. And Calgary is a great city. You know, Calgary has more people in it than the whole state of Montana. Did you know that?
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, 4.1 million in Calgary. That's incredible. More in Calgary than a whole.
We have a little over 1 million in Montana, for example. And that's something.
Yeah, that would be just amazing. Yeah, the merger for all of us would be incredible. Then we would get the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, Constitution, the American military, the FAFO, Foxtrot Alpha, Foxtrot Oscar, all of that coming around and restoring law and order to everything.
Well, it's interesting, Brad. If you go to our local Costco, half the cars in the parking lot have Alberta license plates. Same thing with the hospitals. They're coming down to our hospitals because it takes so long to get particular type of operations in the Canadian health system.
Yep. The Canadian health system was actually just rated worse than the Soviet Union health system. It just got that rated. And in 2015, it was rated the 4th greatest country in the world to live in, Canada, 2015. And in 2024, it dropped to number 33 on the standard of living chart, just 2 above Somalia. So that's where China is now for everybody watching. We're not ending the show yet, everybody. I just want to take you over to Stand Up America Foundation US website, which General Vallely is co-founder and the chairman of at the moment, and allow him to go ahead and plug this incredible foundation when we talk about Patriots and having an organization here. Sir, if you want to just take everybody through here, hopefully they're going to buy some of the books from you.
Well, these are 4 of our latest books that we have online. The next book coming out next year will be Reality Prism, based on my trip to Cairo, Egypt, and meeting General El-Sisi. But as you go down, you can see our latest articles, our latest interviews. Also, you can sign in at the bottom to our weekly newsletter and do that. All you have to do is put your name in and your email, and we'll add you to our distribution list. So our newsletter is read by thousands, not only in the United States, but around the world. It's very popular. And I think the reason we're popular, we don't deal in politics. We deal in reality facts. We don't deal in conspiracies. If we can't back something up with factual information, this actually happened, proven, that's what we put in our newsletter. And so we are the standard bearer for President Trump and the MAGA movement. I'm proud to say that, and Patriots of America. And as we can flow truthful information to people, it gathers, and that spreads out, by the way. People say, well, you need to join the Stand Up America US Foundation. And we're dependent on donations as a 501c here, a nonprofit organization. So anybody that can write a check or send us a donation, we will really appreciate it. We'll put it to good work because you can see what we do. That's why the money coming into the foundation shows and dictates how we can support our monthly objectives, if I may say that.
Absolutely. And sir, you've mentioned a few times yourself and Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, also co-founder, part of the foundation too, and a good friend of yours since WestPoint in the 50s. Incredible man himself.
Yeah.
These books have been read by Trump and the Trump administration. So when you're there, chat, and also again below the description if you're catching us after the fact, then you're actually, when you order these books, you'll have them signed. You have an opportunity to just add to it.
I'll sign each one of them.
General Vallely himself with the donations too. Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever that's worth.
yeah. I think it's quite a bit. Should be in the Smithsonian.
That book on there, Beyond Treason, being used by Congress and the Department of Justice, as well as President Trump, because we have outlined those who have conducted treason, betrayal of America by name in the book. And everything we said when we wrote that book 2 years ago has now come true for the media, except for the left-wing media.
Yep.
So it's really a good historical book to have and to read what's actually happened. And betrayal and treason pick up on that same book that we wrote last year, betrayal and treason.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Incredible. And let's discuss that if you don't mind, because we were talking about the Obama treason in the beginning in the show title, sir. What was it that you had discovered? Obviously, we're not going into the entire book, that yourself and General McInerney and some of your fellow peers had discovered with regards to how they stole the election back then, and what you were working so hard last year, this time, to prevent from being stolen again.
Well, General McInerney had privy to information through a source that developed a system that showed that you could manipulate our elections using cyber. It was called Hammer and Scorecard. And General McInerney actually released that the day after the inspection in 2020. And of course, people said, well, that didn't happen, didn't occur, that's a fantasy. Everything that's come out in the last few months has validated what General McInerney found the day after, and that the elections were manipulated. Between 11 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning, they went in and hundreds of thousands of votes were turned from Trump to Biden. And that's all been proven now.
Yeah. Incredible. Incredible. Well, we keep seeing every now and then, President Trump's put out over the last 9 months, military tribunals, all roads lead to Obama. Obama was the head of everything.
Yep.
What's your feeling when we might finally see some type of justice? Because I know there's Americans on it, Canadians on it, Australians, England, Brits, Scots on edge, waiting for that shoe to drop. And I know we're talking about hypothesis here when we might see something.
Well, treason's it's a tough one. This is unprecedented when we have so many that have violated our laws, the treason laws and so forth, supported enemies, external and internal. You got Brennan now, hopefully Clapper, you've got James Comey. But the one that the tripwire was really the ultimate puppet Manchurian candidate, Muslim candidate, was Barack Obama. And so we pinpoint him really as what was happening. And of course, in the last couple of years of Biden, everybody they asked questions. Well, who's running the White House? Is it the staff? No, we tracked it to Obama was running it from his home in Colorado, a mile and a half from the White House. He had a skiff, a secure thing in his basement there. He had a staff there, and they were working the Russian conspiracy, the Russian hoax, and all of that from day one. And then they had their puppets, of course, Clapper and James Comey and Brennan, and many others. Were 51 actually intel officers were involved in that. We published an article on that as well. But he put Susan Rice, who was in his White House, in the executive office building, I think on the second or third floor. She would get directions from Obama from Colorado, his mansion in D.C., and she would call, say, Ron Klain, who was the chief of staff early on, and then they would give the directions to the staff to implement this, all the way through to the auto pen that was finally used on many documents. So it was all planned out, very well planned out strategy to destroy Trump and not have him elected in 2020 for a second term. And of course, the big downfall of Trump that he didn't understand the swamp as deep as it was, and the people that were in the State Department, Defense Department, state, all of those departments, educational department. The swamp was so deep, and even today it's not cleaned out. We still have a lot to go, and you can see the election that we had for the governor in Virginia. All those northern counties were all basically mostly government employees, and many of them were part of the deep swamp and were left-wing Democrats. And that's why we saw, I think, the governorship in Virginia go down last week. So, I mean, the infiltration into all the departments, but we need to streamline our government so much and a lot to go. But you can only do so much in 10 months with Trump, and he's got 3 more years to go. But he's a battler. He'll make sure things happen.
Yeah, quite amazing what he has accomplished as well, too. Whether it's bringing peace across a lot of the conflicts in the world, Russia, Ukraine, still up in the air. We'll see what goes on there. But then in New York City, you have Mandami, the guy who actually praised the inside job of 9/11 and the massacre of nearly 3,000 Americans, which kicked off the GWOT, Global War on Terror. Praised it, is now the mayor of New York City with trace lines of his funding for his campaign and himself going back to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah. Anti-Israel, so on. Yeah, well, like we used to say, you make your own bed, you got to lie in it. Yeah. And that's what the New Yorkers have done. Now what are you going to do? Because this guy's going to try to originate all of the things that he said, but he's going to find out that he can't do a lot of those things. Then you've got a left-wing supporter up at the Capitol, Hochul, who's the governor. And then you got a lot of course, New Yorkers that work in Manhattan. They live in New Jersey, and they put in an ultra-left-wing governor in New Jersey. So, I mean, you made the bed for them. Now what are you going to do? Right. And of course, you have so many New Yorkers moving out of the Bronx, Long Island, Manhattan,
Florida,
that are moving to other countries. I mean, some to other countries, I think, but they're moving there to Florida, Texas, Tennessee, and other places. Getting the hell out of New York. I know many of them. They've already left.
Yeah.
And so New York, you got to do something. You can't let this guy continue.
Yeah, they definitely do.
4 years, you're going to allow this radical Islamist to be here. And he's a total phony. And like we said of Obama way back when he started, he was an empty suit. Well, this guy's a total empty suit. Never accomplished anything but win an election, I guess, as a state legislature and now the governor of New York. So, but it's sad how you can even be a member of the Democratic Party anymore. The shame they brought on themselves.
Yeah. And
they're not interested. They say they're interested in the people. Well, we're for the democracy. Well, they're not for the democracy. They're for the opposite. I mean, it's total lies, total facade. And again, getting back to reality. And if you don't look at the reality of the situation in New York now, come up with solutions, it's going to completely go downhill even further.
Right. Yep. Toronto is a perfect example of that. And unfortunately, so is Calgary. We still have pastors in Calgary from my time with Pastor Archer Pavlowski and Derek Reimer just a few weeks ago, still being massively persecuted. And it really takes the people to do something. And that's it, because people don't stand up and they hope and wait and pray that somebody else will take care of it. You're going to have Sharia law like we have in parts of Toronto right now, right? And it's overrun.
It seems the only group standing up in Canada are the Indigenous First Nation people. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think for the large part, the ones who are not part of the system have certainly stood up, and the ones that are on the unfortunate reservations that don't respond to their chiefs, who are part of the system paid off by the Canadian government to remain silent, turn a blind eye. It's wonderful to see them do that, sir. Thank you for your participation too. If you want to elaborate on that, please go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'm in touch with several members of the different tribals from the different provinces all the way back to Toronto. And they're standing up. They really are. They put together some very good letters and to the government. But I was surprised when I talked to you that Nova Scotia was so liberal. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's owned by China. And they just came out with a whole bunch of something like 185,000 acres purchased, owned by China and a mineral company, which was part of the parlay where they said, so that's the wrong word, not parlay. That was part of the conspiracy to not go out in the forest because your boots might cause forest fires. So you're going to be fined 150,000 and be in prison for 1 year. And remember, everybody, this is not a joke. This is only in August, 3 months ago. But it turns out the Chinese CCP-backed mineral companies are strip mining in some of those forests. So I think they bought off, or blackmailed some of those politicians as well, General. And it's
that's part of that Western Hemisphere again, Brad.
Yeah. Yep.
Nova Scotia, and you go up to Greenland to protect all of that. I don't know whether that's kind of come together that we purchase or do something with Greenland, but certainly Denmark can't handle it anymore. And you've got countries like China trying to get in there now for the essential minerals that are there. But a lot of people, you never hear anybody talking about Nova Scotia.
No.
No.
That's right. Not until they had that. Focus of a bit of spotlight on there. It's also an interesting port as well too, and it's a strategic placement if anybody wanted to kick off and continue to import fentanyl as well as do some human smuggling into the United States with Nova Scotia. You're just right around the corner from Maine. We know that the cartels and the CCP, they have their silent submarine fleets and drones, and at the moment I don't think there's enough border guards for the CBP and also the military up there. So yeah, I think it would be great. Just take Canada, take Greenland, and that's it. These liberals aren't going to stand up and do anything either, sir. They're going to complain on Twitter X. Like, what are we afraid of? Nothing.
Yeah. Do they have like just one governor for Nova Scotia? Who?
Yeah, some premier. He's
a premier for Nova Scotia. Is that what they call him?
Premier supports Sharia law. Yeah, go figure. Does it sounds about the same playbook, right?
It's such beautiful country. I took a cruise up there years ago from Quebec on through Nova Scotia back down to Maine. It was a wonderful cruise.
Yep. My mother was born in Halifax. She's a blue noser.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Halifax is very large, isn't it? Halifax is a very large city now.
I think it's a little larger than Kittery, Maine. So by that contrast, yeah, absolutely, it's massive. You just have to navigate around the icebergs when they come into the harbor there, and which is quite
Great
beautiful.
Lobster. I remember that, the Great Lobster dinners.
Yeah, fantastic. And General, with all of your experience as well internationally after your service in uniform too, whether it's been Egypt, what you've also done in France at the Russian embassy, and then also going to Moscow and arranging that first meeting between Presidents Trump and Putin. Right. What do you feel is going to go on with Russia and Ukraine and the craziness with Zelensky? Because I just heard 2 weeks ago, it might have been a while ago, he bought 950,000 acres in Wyoming, Zelensky. And that's got to be money coming in from the American.
Of course. It's the most corrupt country in Europe. It always has been, Ukraine. But the Russians, Putin does not have, no, let me say this. Trump does not have good advisors on Russia. It's always the pro trying to support the Europeans, supporting Ukraine. The ground war has already been run by Russia. In Petrovsk last week, the Russians completely encircled the Ukrainians in that province up there. And there's no way for them to get out. And Trump even said this morning on television the Russians were losing 7,000. That's not true. They're not. The Ukrainians have lost at least 15 million that have left Ukraine. Wow. Ukrainians are trying to recruit young people, grabbing them on the street, putting them in vehicles and recruiting them. The report from Russia is many of the ones that are surrounded now had only been in the military drafted for 4 to 6 weeks. And the only capability the Ukraine now is firing the missiles that we've given them. And now, of course, they want Tomahawks, and Trump must not give them Tomahawk missiles, that's for sure. The rest, they're just poking the bear too much. Russia is a global power. The three major superpowers, Russia, China, and America. And somehow Trump is trying to negotiate a lot with China but he needs to really get on track to what is happening in the Western media that's against Russia. They're talking about the Russian economy is failing. They're not failing. I just had one of our guys over there, and their economy's doing well. The grocery stores, you don't see any policemen on the streets in Moscow.
Streets are
There's
clean.
no crime. The streets are totally clean. And you look at their energy, you look at their technical centers now, their defense industry. They're the top, Putin is the top guy for BRICS, which is now, I don't know, 60, 65 nations. And we never talk about that. The Western media is totally propaganda when it comes to the Russian-Ukraine conflict. Now, I'm not saying I'm pro-Russia or pro this and all that, but I understand the Russians, and I have contacts that give me information that's totally contrary and infactual that's not being reported in the Western media.
Yeah.
And you got to, why is England and France and Germany? I mean, it's just unbelievable that they're fomenting this, poking the bear each and every day.
Yep.
And even Trump now trying to take the initiative to cut off Russian oil to India. India has a right to buy oil any damn place they want to, as any other country. You shouldn't be influencing that and using the Russian oil. So these are some of the situations, but Trump needs to get a good advisors on that situation over there, which he doesn't have now. They're all pro-Ukraine, pro-Zelensky, the great corrupter, as I call him.
Man, yeah, absolutely.
I even heard his wife bought a casino in Cyprus for 140 million.
Yeah, and what's Cyprus known
Mansions
for?
in France, mansions in Miami. I mean, boy, they love that American money. We've been suckered for $350 billion.
Yep, entirely. And Putin's built 3,500 churches. He's outlawed transgenderism and mutilation of children. And he said that if anybody, rapes a child, it's immediate medical castration. These are things that I support, absolutely. And then on top of that, if you genetically modify any of the foods, you're charged with domestic terrorism, which is a big reason McDonald's was kicked out, I think, of Russia. So, there's some amazing things back there. And then it's a society that, for the most part, Christian Orthodox.
And we need to embrace that.
Incredible values. Yeah, and BRICS. And, they're
how often do you see a Russian on television in the West being interviewed?
Never. They don't even
see videos from Lazarov and some others, but there's very few live interviews.
Yeah.
But they have everybody coming on from Great Britain, France, Germany, and so on.
Yeah. They need to get you back in the general and Mike. Sorry. Yes.
No, I was just going to say we have to really be aware of the Western propaganda. It's not based on fact.
Yeah. Tune into Russian television, actually.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you should. Everybody that's investigative reporter, there's not many, need to watch Russian television, RT.com, RTTV.com. You get a different insight. And I'm not saying all of that is all true all the time either. They have their biases, but it's more factual than a lot of the Western media.
Yeah, most definitely. So tell us about the precursor to the book, Reality Prism, that story, and then we'll lead into what's coming up with you and sign off.
Yeah, the Reality Prism started when I headed up a delegation in 2014 to Cairo, Egypt. And at that time, we were sponsored by General al-Sisi after the second revolution. The first revolution is when Mubarak was replaced. Second revolution was replacing Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood guy. And so I was meeting in General al-Sisi's office with his chief of staff and others, but they had like 10 generals in there along with our delegation. We're on one side of the room and they're on the other side. And this one major general, Egyptian, he said, I don't understand, after 40 years of being allies and foreign aid, your Congress and Obama cut off military aid to us. We need that aid because we've got the Sinai working with the Israelis. We've got failing nations, Somalia to our south, Libya to our west. We've got to secure the not the Panama Canal, but Suez and Canal, and all of that transfer of goods and services coming up through the Red Sea and through up through the canal, the Suez Canal, there on up into the Mediterranean. And he said, I have to rebuild the economy. He says, why? And then Joel Sisi looks at me and he says, why does America always seem to make its major decisions looking through a political prism rather than a reality prism? Oh my goodness, that was an epiphany. That was an epiphany. And so coming back on the airplane with our delegation, I said, gee, I ought to write a book on this. This is brilliant. And so that was the genesis of Reality Prism 1. You call this Reality Prism 2.0, but it shows how America still, even with its government shutdown, are looking through political prisms rather than the reality prisms of so. You can only solve problems if you look at the facts and reality. If you try to do partisan politics, it never works.
Yeah, beautiful. That too should be.
Oh, that's a story.
That's a great story. Great story. Well, folks, for everybody who's watching, once again, it's been streaming on the screen. It's below the description. Stand Up America, US.org. You need to put the US in there because Soros tried to front run this when the organization was set up. So if you go to standupamerica.com, you're going to get George Soros. And since he's under RICO investigation right now, you might be under RICO investigation. So no, the proper link is standupamericaus.org. That will take you to Major General Vallely's website. He's the chairman. You'll see the book, America's Endgame for the 21st Century. You have the stack for the Golden Age, which includes America's Endgame. So you have Beyond Treason and Betrayal and Treason in America and the Dismantling of America. And that entire pack right there, as the general just stated earlier, is being read by the DOJ and is a big responsibility as to what's going on with the prosecutions that's coming up. Congress is going through these books as well because General Vallely, General McInerney, and members of their team have helped expose how the election was stolen through Hammer scorecard and some other items you've just heard about here. So get onto it. I highly encourage all of you to do so. And if you got some additional funds, throw some donations this man's way because it all goes to the foundation. This is a man and his women as well who work in the foundation and incredible soldiers around the world who are doing this for the right reasons. And
well, like President Trump, Brad, I don't take a salary.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Donating it. You're putting it all back to the foundation. It's pretty honorable. And General, once again, from me to you, really appreciate everything that you do. You stand for the support of everything and the accessibility you provide to all of us.
Really, well, thank you, Brad, too. You do a great job, and you're a great patriot.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, God bless you, and say hi to Muffin, and let you get after it. Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Mahalo. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And just remember that the live chat will close on Rumble. For those who are watching on our YouTube reinstated, at least everything is all here in the screen. So if you want to leave messages for General Vallely or the staff to look at after on Rumble, just drop them into the Rumble comments after the chat closes. Thank you, everybody. God bless and have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Mahalo.
All right, you sovereign souls, now is the time to protect your money with gold and silver if you already have not. And if you are and you have a chance to do so, I highly encourage to do so even more, because gold and silver will launch the golden age, which Commander-in-Chief Trump has continuously referenced.
The dollar is going down, and it's not a pretty picture, and it's not being sustained by proper policy and proper thinking. This was an opportunity, and maybe an opportunity to show people what's happening with the dollar so that we can do something about it.
Get some if you can. BuddhaLovesGold.com will take you to our partner Goldco. They have over 6,000 5-star reviews. This is why now is the time to buy gold and silver, because we have thousands of Americans buying gold today. The rising inflation has reduced our purchasing power. Dysfunctional politics don't work for us. The US dollar has lost over 97% of its value since 1913, while the price of gold has increased over 9,000%. Silver has fared well against the dollar too, with the silver price increasing over 4,500% since 1913. It's about wealth protection. Physical precious metals act as a hedge against dips in volatile markets. Go over to BuddhaLovesGold.com. That's www.BUDDHA, BuddhaLovesGold.com. You will download your free silver and gold guide today, and our great people over there at Goldco will take care of you. That's BuddhaLovesGold.com. You'll see a picture of me right on there, Brad Wozni. And once again, BRICS is the new financial system. Asset-backed precious metals is the way of the future. This is about financial control. Diversifying your assets with gold and silver puts you in control of your wealth at BuddhaLovesGold.com.